You're listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast. This is the show where we bring you the best tips, tricks, and nutritional hacks to help you and your family get healthier. You will also hear what works and doesn't work, so you don't have to waste your time and money. All right, let's get started. Hello, my name is Dr. Tony Martin Jr. of the Martin Clinic, and I'm here with my dad, Dr. Tony Martin Sr. of the Martin Clinic. And we're recording this podcast in December of 2016, and we get a lot of emails this time of year asking us for kind of tips for the holiday season. A lot of times, we always kind of, in, past podcasts, we've kind of said that, heart disease or diabetes doesn't know it's the holidays. It doesn't just say, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to forgive you. So kind of do what you want. But with that being said, we also know, and us included, we're going to be at places and there's going to be, Christmas cookies. And, like you say many times, my mom, your wife, she's Italian. She can cook.
The best.
And, this time of year, we get a lot of patients who bring in a lot of stuff for us. And so we understand that. Yeah. And we live on planet Earth as well. And we're definitely not telling people not to enjoy the holiday season. And, food is a big part of the holiday season for a lot of people. They look forward to this year. So what we want to do is we want to kind of give you some practical tips, instead of just saying don't eat it, which is not practical. Yeah. We're going to give you some practical stuff that, we've given out over the years and stuff that we use for ourselves as well. So we'll do that. But before we do that, I just want to quickly talk. We get this question a fair amount. And the question is, can I fast and then exercise while fasting? And we get this question a lot. And we, just before coming on the air, we saw that question again. So we figured we might as well answer that real quickly. And interestingly enough, a study was done, just actually recently published again, and it was published in the Journal of Nutritional and basically the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism. It's a new study, and what they did is they looked at fasting, people exercising while fasting. I'll just read you the conclusion of the study here, and it says basically fasting before morning exercise decreased 24-hour energy intake, meaning they actually ate less the rest of the day, because that's one of the things people, am I just going to end up overeating? And a lot of the fasting studies show that people don't overeat after fasting. They may consume a little bit more immediately the day after, but nothing, nothing big. So it decreases the 24-hour energy intake, and it actually increased fat oxidation during exercise. So they seem to be burning a little bit more fat while exercising in that fasted state. So we get this question asked a lot, can I exercise while fasting? Absolutely. For sure. People do it. People have been doing it forever. We just live in a society now where we're told just got to eat all the time, right? You need the energy, you need your metabolism going. If you don't eat, you're gonna, you're gonna eat your muscles for energy, and so you better, load up on all these things. And where the fact of the matter is, that's not true.
Yeah.
We have the ability to exercise in a fasted state, and it seems for some people, again, everybody's so different. Yeah. But for some people, it actually may be to an advantage to do that. Yeah. Burn more fat and consume less calories, less energy intake through the rest of the day. So I know I lift weights on a fasted all the time. I don't eat before going to the gym in the morning. I always have. And
you always had, and you actually, were diagnosed with hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, right? And so it just goes to show you, though, that, and this is what I try and explain to patients in the office, is that, what you are today doesn't necessarily mean that you can't change that, right? Like if you got what we call functional hypoglycemia, doesn't mean that you can't control that and even are even able to fast, right? So
well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when the idea of fasting, when I first started coming across the concept of fasting and looking at all the research into fasting, my first thought is there's no way I can miss breakfast. I won't be able to do it. My energy is going to be no good. I'm going to be shaky. I'm not going to feel good. And what I found out is that's not true. The body will regulate its own blood sugar. It will burn fat as necessary in order to maintain a stable blood sugar. The problem I realized is that obviously when I was having issues with my blood sugar years ago in college has to do with the fact that when I did eat,
it was mainly carbohydrates.
Yeah, that's right. So that was affecting. So I found that actually
you and carbs, you found out, were frenemies. You didn't do well with them because you spiked. Your sugar spiked and then sunk like the Titanic afterwards.
Even think, I mean, I was in college in the early to mid 90s, and I mean, most people's diets back then, were 60-70% carbohydrates because that's just what you did, right? And I just never did well eating that way. Obviously it led to hypoglycemia, it led to blood sugar issues, right? Now that I eat a lot more protein and, I eat better carbs in a sense, and I don't eat 60% of my diet in carbohydrates, I have no issue, and I could fast. And the funny thing is that my eating window could be anywhere between, 4 to 6 hours in a day. I mean, I have no issues doing that whatsoever. So basically I always tell people if I can do it, literally anybody can do that. All right, so let's get into some of the holiday tips that we kind of talked about at the beginning of this podcast, because again, this is the time of year where, I mean, people just assume they're going to eat a lot of stuff, which is cool. I mean,
office parties, family get-togethers, you name it, right? It's going to happen. So, hey, why not enjoy? And, I think the goal ought to be too. I mean, it depends, right? There's certain goals. We're very big on the overall picture and keeping your insulin down and keeping your inflammation markers down. And I mean, but when you talk to our patients, they're more interested in what's going to happen to my weight. That's what they're really, So we're going to give you some practical ways to maybe you won't lose weight, but you won't be gaining weight or very, very little during this holiday season. So I think people appreciate that they.
So let's get into that. So the first one then again is we would like you to understand the concept of feasting and famine, right? There's a time if you're going to feast, then there's a time for famine as well, which is the concept of fasting, right? If you know you're going to be going somewhere and you're going to be having a big meal tonight, then it only makes sense to try not to eat beforehand, fast, or if you're going to eat just a little bit of nuts or something just to hold you over, and then go and enjoy your meal and enjoy it guilt-free, right? I mean, and that's the thing. We have to, we see this a lot in our office. There are a majority of the people have an unhealthy relationship with food. Most people just have an unhealthy. We feel guilty. We think about it too much. I mean, there's so many aspects, right? So, again, try to understand the concept of feasting and famine. Mm-hmm. If you're going to feast tonight, then nothing wrong with not eating until then. Or if you say there's no way I can go that long because I'm not eating till 5 o'clock tonight, have some nuts. Have a little bit of food just to kind of hold you over, some protein.
Little touch of peanut butter, which is tremendous because peanut butter's got a lot of fat in it and a lot of protein. And so it's almost like a no carb. So it's almost a perfect food to snack on, right? To have some straight peanut butter or
and then go and enjoy yourself at
peanut butter on celery or whatever, right?
And what we would suggest is this, this is kind of like a hack in a sense, but if you're going to eat, most times if you're eating at a restaurant, it's a combination of fat and carbs, right? Which is kind of, it's not that you can't eat fat and carbs together, but you definitely can't eat the types of fat and carbs. Like, for example, most people don't know this, but if you were to do a mouse study and you wanted to fatten up a mouse, essentially it's donuts, right? It's a combination of fat and carbs processed, and it's, it's just a bad combination, right?
The high vegetable oils,
and it's just like it fattens you up, right?
That's a good thing, like a donut.
Which is funny though. They did a mouse study, and they actually this got a little bit of news over the summer where they kind of said that the paleo type diets are no good because they did this mouse study. and the mouse got fat on it. But then when you analyze the food, it was like sugars and fats and like vegetable oils, which is, you know, definitely not how a paleo type diet goes. So it is kind of a funny thing. But again, so if you know you're going to be going to a restaurant tonight and you're going to be eating a lot of fats and carbs, because that's pretty much exactly what a restaurant food is made up of, then our suggestion is either fast till then, or if you are going to eat, then definitely don't load up on the fats and the carbs on the early part of the day. I would stick to like lean proteins, or as you mentioned, a little bit of peanut butter, which is fine. You know, don't consume half a bottle of peanut butter. No. But that's the kind of stuff. A little bit of nuts, even a little bit of fat. But I wouldn't load up too much.
A little bit of cheese.
Yeah, I wouldn't load up too much on the fat earlier in the day, because you're going to be getting it at the back end of the day anyway. Yeah. So that's just kind of like one of those things. But try the feast and the famine if you can. You know, if you, again, let's just go through a typical like scenario. You have a, you know, like, you know, tomorrow night there's going to be a big office Christmas thing or a family Christmas thing. So you get up, you skip breakfast, have a coffee, drink a lot of water, and then go through lunch if you can. If you have to say, I got to eat lunch, like you said, have a little bit of fruit, a little bit, just something light, a little bit of nuts, and then go enjoy yourself at nighttime. And then, if you think about it, even from a pure food intake, you can go there and enjoy yourself, and not, in a sense, in terms of the 24-hour energy intake, not really overdo it.
And again, just to reiterate this science, okay? Like, why does this work, okay? And it works because you go hours and hours and hours without secreting insulin, right? So that's the key. Like, if you're not eating at all, because it doesn't matter if you eat, you're going to secrete some insulin. We're really big on low carb, because if you go low carb and more proteins, you use your insulin, but you're not using a lot of it. But we're big on lowering insulin, and the research on, and we know it from our patients. The nice thing about our research, like, you'll read studies and they're good. But what we do in our clinic is we have clinical findings, like, we're clinicians. So, it's nice because we see it work with people. So what are we doing? The goal is, with intermittent fasting, is that you are not secreting insulin. Insulin is a fat storer. Insulin is an inflammation. It's a growth hormone. So the more you don't use it, the better it is. And the more your cells like insulin, the better it is. And we'll get into that.
Well, and then, so, like you just mentioned, just continuing on that thought. So, like, you have a big meal tomorrow night. Then I would recommend, again, doing a little bit of intermittent fasting the day after, so that, let that food digest, give yourself a fair amount of time of, being low insulin after that meal, and then get back into your normal routine. And for most people, that works very well. That whole concept of feast and famine. So that's the first idea. The second idea, in a sense, is kind of an offshoot of that, which would be then to backload your carbs. If you know you're going to have a lot of carbs at nighttime, don't start your day with carbs. Don't do that.
Yeah, have protein.
Have some protein. Right? That's what kind of a same concept or the same reasoning behind fasting. But if you can't fast, then you can at least mimic a fast to a certain extent, right? You can keep your insulin low for the first part of the day, and then you'll know you get your carbs in on the back end of the day, and then, kind of recuperate from there. But that's one way of doing it, which would be backloading your carbs. Don't eat carbs all day. Keep that insulin spike at a much shorter time. So that's another one in terms of that. And then we talked about as well, a good trick that a lot of people do successfully is that if they feast tonight, they're gonna famine tomorrow. They're gonna fast, right? They're gonna feast tonight. They're gonna fast tomorrow. So that's definitely a good strategy to use to offset that. Keep the insulin low after, right? So
you can do almost like a 24-hour fast during the holidays.
Well, and that's the thing. People don't think of 24-hour fast like I can't go a day without eating. But if you eat supper at, tonight, if I eat supper tonight and I eat supper again tomorrow night, that's a 24-hour fast. Yeah. You can fast for 24 hours and eat every day. So a lot of people, will do a 1 or 2 day fast a week, but they're eating every day.
Listen. I mean, even the benefits of this, okay, is, because today we're being very practical because we're trying to keep, because the biggest thing, you want to keep your insulin down, you want to keep your weight down. And I think people really respond to that because that's a big issue with people. But secondly, listen, even that 24-hour fasting is so anti-inflammatory, it's incredible.
Yeah,
right?
It's
like people that find, their joints are sore, their muscles are sore, people with fibromyalgia. And I find, again, if you keep insulin out of play and you eat the once a day, you don't have to do it every day, 7 days a week, but the benefits now I'm seeing clinically with that. We're doing a course now that will be out in the new year. And we talked about this and just about, keeping insulin down because of hormones and what it does, right? Even for women that are estrogen dominant and women.
Well, and that brings up another question is that, a while ago, some person wrote a blog on the internet that got a ridiculous amount of traction and a lot of reads and views and talking about how women should never fast. And again, that's just not science at all. Research has shown that men and women both benefit from fasting, and men and women have been fasting religiously. A lot of religions around the world, they fast and they've been doing it for a long time, both men and women with no issue. So there's no, like skipping a meal is not going to kill you.
Yeah, and you know what? Like you said this, I think, on another podcast, and for some people, like ease your way into it. Like you don't have to necessarily do an 18-hour or like we try and get over 12 hours, right, as much as we can, because we know that in terms of science that when you get into the the 14th, 15th hour of not eating, I mean, if you stop eating at 6 o'clock at night. Right, and then you eat, you go past 6 in the morning. Well, a lot of people sleep past 6 in the morning. They're not even thinking about eating. Well, there's 12 hours, right? And then if you can stretch it out even till 10 in the morning, I mean, you've got into real good fasting territory, and so maybe just try. Some people never fast for even 12 hours. I'll tell you, the people that, generally, I mean, look, and a lot of women have hormonal issues, and we understand that. I don't know if there's any clinic in the world that understands hormones the way we do it, because we don't guess, we test. But a lot of people, they have this idea, better eat. And they're eating good, though. Like, they're eating good food and that, but they never they can't lose weight. Well, look, you're not a bear, like you really don't need to store all that. And one of the tricks is to do this fasting. So anyway, enough said, I think, about it, but, we're pretty convinced with our own clinical findings that it works.
All right. And let's give, we're running out of time. So let's just give two more quick tips that you can do.
Oh, one. Can I say one?
Sure.
Have a coffee with your meal. And the reason is because coffee helps your cells become sensitive to insulin. So it'll accept insulin more. You're going to secrete insulin you're eating. But they've shown it's just a practical tip. Have a coffee with your meal. Now, for some people, I'm telling them a great thing. For some people, I have one coffee a day, and they sort of brag about it. Well, coffee's good for you, depending on what you put in it, right? Like don't put sugar in it. But coffee is actually very good to help regulate your insulin.
And again, anything that makes you insulin sensitive is definitely something that you want to do. So, and that it goes along the lines of the last two tips. One is, again, it just seems like every week or every other week I read a study on the effect of a lack of sleep has on our appetite, our cravings, our leptin levels, our metabolism, cortisol, blood sugar. So again, one of the, it happens, right? We overeat at the holidays, but we also lose some sleep. We're tired. It's just a bad combination. So if you can do one thing, it's one of those things that we just don't talk about sleep enough, in a sense, is that, if somebody's eating well and they're exercising and they're not getting the results they want, they usually have a sleeping issue, because sleep is a powerful
recharges those batteries big time.
So sleep is one of those things. And another great tip as well is, again, if you're going to go eat a lot of food, then go lift weights before you go eat that food. Yeah. Because lifting weights or a high-intensity interval training makes you more insulin sensitive after. You can handle the carbs a lot better afterwards. Plus, exercise will deplete a little bit of glycogen out of your muscles, so you'll just replenish that. So it's one of those things that if you can go lift weights before you go eat a bigger meal, you'll offset some of that meal. So if you combine lifting weights and a little bit of fasting, or a carb backloading, that's the best thing you can do to offset, at least give your body the best chance of offsetting what you're going to eat. So those are our tips. Those are just practical, easy tips that, we would recommend to try over the holiday season. And if you try them and it works, let us know. If you like them, if these tips have, if these tips are helpful, let us know. Send us some feedback. We'd like to hear back from you. And if you have any questions, you can go on our website. You can sign up for our newsletters. We talk about a lot of these things in our newsletters. You can get a hold of us at martinclinic.com, or you can email us as well at info@martinclinic.com. And again, just kind of like just a little bit of news is that, as you mentioned, we're just in the tail end of finishing up our an online program that we're really excited about, called the Metabolic Storm, and it's going to be
the storm is coming.
It's going to be a whole home course for women and helping them fix their hormones.
Unbelievable.
And we'll be talking about that more in the future. But again, we want to thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in again next week. You've been listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast, brought to you by martinclinic.com. We are truly thankful that you took the time out of your busy day to listen. Talk soon.